way of phrasing it. That was like perfect. Yes, that's the idea, you know. And what's I've created a page to you know, for the project. You know, putting it here. I'm just starting to take notes here and. And start putting together a timeline, you know, just start getting material together just to start
yeah,
that.
Just looking at what's going to happen that week, it make me so like envy that I want to be there. It's like, you know, like
Yeah, I'm not too crazy about spending 400. I have one event I can do for free. I thought it would be the Science for Compassion. I found that the empathy and compassion folks were not very. You know, I talked to him about doing something there, and he just, I don't know. It was. I told him
That's the
about
Stanford folks, right?
no, the Stanford are kind of more open. It was the Empathy and Compassion Society folks that I just didn't feel they were very inclusive. You know, it's like it's kind of, I don't know. If you ask me, it's a little snobbish kind of a
Wow.
attitude. Sorry, but
what would you expect? I mean, you know.
yeah, you think, well, you know, you're doing. I mean, the C-Care folks are, you know, I'm doing a media exchange with them, and they give a ticket to one of the events. So.
But isn't that the same folks? I don't understand.
No, they're all different. There's the Science of Compassion, which is C-Care. There's a Compassion in Healthcare, which is C-Care. There's Empathy and Compassion in Society. It's the folks from London, and a group here in the Tenzin, whatever, you know, whatever the Dalai Lama's real name is. They have a center, you know, using his name, and it's them just putting it on. And then they've got the Charter for Compassion has a one-day kind of an organizing event on Saturday. And then there's the Living Compassion Week, which I think is a joint with C-Care and the cognitive therapy folks. That's can't remember the name from the UK. That's the big guy on that. I've interviewed him. I can't remember his name right now.
That is so confusing.
Yes, there's multiple. It's a week of a lot of different, you know, kind of organizations and people, and each one is, you know, a separate registration.
Okay. Wow. So all those like 4 organizations are working together to create this week-long.
Yeah. And then even then on the 10th, Roman Krasnarek, you know, has the empathy.
I love him. Yeah.
So he's doing a talk here in Berkeley through the Greater Good Science Center at 7:30.
Wow.
That's on the 10th. So.
Okay.
So I figure, you know, this is let's jump in. Let's ride the wave. You know, this is the time to do it. And the other thing that let's see is, you know, I've been working at the hub. So what I'm doing is I started you know, I'm doing a project there, kind of multiple projects at the hub. The big one is how do we raise the level of empathy at the hub. So when I go there to work, I set up my free empathy sign. I don't know if I...
Yeah. I told you that I want to steal this idea for the school.
Okay, great. Oh, that's right. So, you know, I've done about 7 people so far. You know, and it's been really interesting.
There were 5 last time that we talked. You talked about like 5 people that you were with. So how was it with the 2 new people?
One of them I knew. I've been working with him, Jeff. He's been kind So I did it with him, and then actually he interviewed me. He did empathic listening to me, so I guess that would be 8 kind of myself. And I did record I do a post discussion, and actually, let me show you this.
I lost you. Edwin? Hello? Hey.
Whoa, all my windows crashed here.
Oh, okay. Was looking to like what? Okay.
Okay, what did I want to show? I opened the window that I wanted to show you, and then all of
the interview that you did.
Wow. Okay. Okay, here's the empathy team's website that I'm creating, for the documenting, and I just put the link in there.
Yep.
So you can see that's the hub. That would be the space for the workshop. I put up my little sign, free empathy sign. And then to the left, you can see the interviews that I've done. So some of them are empathic listening feedback, and others are interviews about the needs for empathy at the hub.
So you write as you like.
I do the free empathy. I just listen, and then I say, "Can I interview you about the experience?" Because I'm wanting to redesign it. This is a prototype. We're wanting to redesign this listening experience, so it's a design project. And everybody says, "Yeah, that's fine. I'll share it." Then I ask if I can record the feedback, and then I've been recording about like a 10-minute feedback of how it was, and then I've been doing some transcribing of the.
Wow.
And so you can see what people have been saying about it.
Yeah. Phew. You've been working a lot on that.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm kind of imagining, thinking, is it'll be like a rolling workshop almost. It's starting now that this is like part of it.
Yeah.
Because, so I'm wanting to do, the free empathy. I'm asking people if they want to join an empathy circle. So I want to bring in empathy circles there next. And then I already have the empathic design team, meeting there weekly. So, and then the Acumen, they're doing another course starting in October. So I'm figuring I should be able to get another team together, of the people who are interested in design, and have everything kind of geared towards doing this workshop conference or whatever.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, I think all the pieces, it all kind of fits, that.
Okay. So
Yeah.
So you want to talk? No, that's great. So you want to talk about how we should like think about doing like a conference, workshop, gathering, whatever we want to call it, but like how it would look like, and what do we think?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had thought that maybe we could just talk about it, kind of brainstorm around it, and that maybe next week, if we could meet again, that I can see if we can get one more person in it to actually use the design process to design it. Because and that way, like, we would interview each other, the three of us, and then there's one person that can do note taking as we go along, which really helps. It's hard. What I'm finding is I did it just one-on-one, empathic design, online, and it was like really hard to take notes and kind of interview. So I'm figuring if we have three people, one person kind of takes notes while the other person does the interviewing, and then we kind of rotate. So
sounds cool.
Okay.
Yeah, next week should be good. The only thing, that's the earliest that you can, right? At 9.
Probably. Is it earlier better for you?
Yeah, because the thing is that on Saturday it's 12 here. It's kind of in the middle. Unless if you want to do it later at night, that might be better. I don't know. And if not, we can leave it as it is. It's just
like half an hour earlier, maybe. It depends. Let me see who I can get and.
Okay, so just you let me know, and if not, we'll leave it as it is. It's fine.
Okay, well, I'll try to make it a little earlier. I'm not sure. It's hard for me to be awake.
Yeah, no, but if it would be here at 9, earlier than 9, I understand that as well. So, so what was your idea about how long would you see this gathering take place? Do you think about something that is 2 hours, a whole day, 2 days? Okay.
So let me see.
So we're talking like 8 hours, kind of 9 to 5, something like that?
Yeah.
And you experienced that couple of months ago, right? When you did this workshop, it was not at the hub; it was somewhere else that you went, and I know it was very meaningful. Where was it?
Well, it was a church. It was at a church we did.
With the social workers or something like that, right? What was with the social workers that you did a workshop? Oh no, it was the art of hosting and facilitating that you took, and then you went to the church and did your own, right? That was Okay. Yep. Okay.
Well, there's a couple of different technologies or approaches. There's the art of hosting, which uses World Cafe, Open Space, ProAction Cafe, they call it. And they have a whole set of processes, so it's very participatory, and then it's a bit different than the design. The human-centered design, has a lot of overlaps, but that's what we did at the church, was a human-centered design. We started with empathy circles, which is a little bit like World Cafe, but using empathic listening, and then we went into a design, going through the design process with that, our workbook.
But can you do the whole 5 stages in a day?
Could actually do it twice. Takes about 2 hours to go through the process.
Really? Just 2 hours? Okay.
yeah, and maybe a little bit more, 2.5 hours. Could actually go through it twice.
Okay.
Um, so right now I'm thinking of maybe doing it twice. Oh, there's another thing I thought of. I have that movie too. That's another thing to maybe show during the week at the hub.
Which movie?
It's this movie. Let me. Culture and empathy. I'm putting the link in there.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one called Love, Hate, and Everything in Between, which is not the best title, but it's really
Okay, yeah, okay. I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen your interview with him, so.
There's a trailer there.
Okay. And you have the actual movie?
I've got the actual movie that he actually sent to me, and he gave me permission to show it, too, at the hub.
Oh, that's good. Because, yeah, I was going to ask about copyright. Okay. He's a British guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How long is his movie?
It's only an hour.
Okay.
So I'm thinking that could actually be shown, not there, but they have like a film night at the hub. So it could actually be shown like on the 20th or something, which is a Thursday, as like a preliminary, like a pre-showing.
Yeah. That would be good. Or what I was thinking is you can show it during the lunch break so people can have their, brown bag lunch, kind of bring your lunch or go buy something, come back, and then while you're sitting, everybody's like sitting and watching the movie while they're eating. But I think your idea of doing a night before as kind of that would work.
Okay, so empathy movie, and then maybe even a second showing for lunch or something, since it's only an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, got that.
There is a great movie of a filmmaker, which I think she's in San Francisco. I'm not sure. Tiffany Schlein. I don't know if you heard about her.
I haven't.
The movie is called Connected, and it explains how we can use the media to kind of connect with each other, and she's using, like, it's about her. It's like a private kind of story. It was in Sundance, so I'll. Let me see that I have the movie, because I did. I showed it in the international conference that I produced, and people loved it. So her father, who died, was a person who was in psychology and was looking at the human brain. And his last book is going to be issued, and she kind of tried to connect what he was doing about the right and the left brain with the kind of the digital age that we are, and how we are actually connected, and looking at the broader kind of world, kind of where the world is going to. I don't know if I'm making if I'm clear.
You think it relates to empathy?
Yeah, because she's talking about, how to use it. Where can you find? She has a website. She's doing cloud production. Here, I think. Yeah. Okay, this is the website. So I'm going to put the website. You can have a look, and you know.
There's also the Occupy Love. Do you know that one? That was about the Occupy movement.
Nope. By the way, I think she lives in San Francisco, so she might be able to even come, or you know.
Uh-huh.
She's a great speaker in person.
Yeah, so these are other things that could be maybe shown in advance to kind of get people interested. So how are you? What do you think about like an event? I mean, kind of overall, like, you know, 1 day, 2 days. You know, I still have to get the okay from the hub, but
yeah,
you can see the space is, you know, pretty good space there. They have their own media list. You know, if it gets on their calendar, you know.
I think it's a great idea. Again, the November 22nd, I will hardly be able to participate. I don't know if I will be able to do anything because I'm in Chicago in a conference. But but we can you know, we can talk, we can design, and you can do it, and then you know you'll tell me how it was. I think we need to structure it very well to understand why to do it the way that, you know, to do it, why doing it twice, what's the purpose. I would emphasize, like, what do we want to achieve, and then thinking about, okay, how can we do that? What's the, you know, what would be the techniques? And then we'll see if, do we do twice, do we do it once, what's...
Okay, design the workshop. Why? What is the purpose? What do we want to achieve? And kind of work backwards, I guess, from that.
I think so. It makes more sense because I think that deciding, you know, doing 2 workshops and then we don't know exactly why. So I would say let's go to the purpose of why doing the workshop from the first place, and who do you think is going to come to this workshop?
Just writing it up on top there.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think is the purpose?
I would say not trying to conquer the world is give people an opportunity to practice empathy. And as I said before, if they came to the conference and heard all those exciting things, or even if they didn't come to the conference, but they're excited about empathy, they read a lot of stuff and things, here is kind of a small supportive greenhouse that will give them the options of working on something, growing something, developing something that will help them, you know, later on assimilate it in their own setting. So just to, I talked a lot, so just to make the purpose very small is a place to practice a tangible product of fostering empathy in your community. That would be my definition. What would be yours?
Okay, what I'm hearing is, let me just reflect back first, not conquering the world, to give people an opportunity to practice empathy. because of the Compassion Week, they've read a lot, they've heard a lot, and here is a supportive greenhouse to grow and develop and to assimilate, a place to practice a tangible product in your community.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that last part is what I had. In terms of the title was something about how do we build an empathic community. You know, it's kind of looking at the title. So that's also, yeah, it's what is it that I'm wanting it to wanting to be participatory, experiential, actually doing something, that kind of doing and experiencing empathy. Because a lot of these conferences, when it's just talking, you know, there's all these passive, everybody's sitting in a row, passively listening to the experts, you know, and the experts could be, you know, psychopaths for that matter. It's like, you don't know. I mean, a person can speak really well, yet be a psychopath. So how do we really do empathy and experience empathy? And have kind of everyone feeling like they're involved and, you know, participating. So I guess I'm really looking for the participatory, as well as trying to get like a ball rolling, kind of an empathy movement building ball rolling that
Okay.
you know, that I see it would be part of a larger ball, right? That I'm trying to get a ball rolling at the hub.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm doing the empathic listening. You know, people are coming over and they're really sharing real things that are going on for them. Like yesterday, somebody came by and, you know, his work is cutting back. He's getting less work. He's like really anxious. You know, and he's just sharing his anxiety and all that. And so I think, you know, really contributed to him kind of feeling heard about what was going on with him. So I'm kind of doing, and a lot, it's amazing, people are sharing all kinds of really kind of personal problems that they're having. So it's kind of, that's part of the ball. I'm looking at getting an empathy circle going there too, get people trying to meet together. We already have the design, like I was mentioning. So this is like a continuation of that ball rolling, and then I'm hoping that afterwards that there's like an action component afterwards, that people will say, oh, this is great, you know, I want to join these groups that are at the hub, you know, empathy circles, empathic design, and that we have a momentum and a ball rolling, I guess is just my metaphor. Snowball, yeah, that it's a snowball. It's part of a larger building process. And then I'm looking at the participatory part. There's a lot of participatory practices, like art of hosting is very participatory. And then I'm looking at the empathic design as maybe being the framework, though. And I guess I have a little anxiety. Will it be really interesting? I want it to be interesting for people to really feel engaged. And yeah, so that's what comes.
Okay, so I'll try to reflect. So I heard that you want people to experience the empathic circle, that it will have some effect on them, to have participatory kind of activities, and that it will be interesting. And you're using the snowball effect, that what you want is to create a momentum there, that people would take what they're practicing and join the movement that you're working on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's because it sounds like, I'm trying to see. So I was talking about people practicing and creating something for their own either community or their own needs. And you were talking about initiating some momentum for them to join what you're working on.
Yeah, that's kind of different.
Am I right, or it's not exactly the?
Yeah, I need to kind of feel into that. Okay, here's the experience that I had. at the first one that we did is that it was like, how would you redesign the empathic experience of your partner? Is what it initially I thought, well, we're going to redesign this conference, it's this workshop itself to make it more empathic. But then it kind of evolved into how do we create the empathic experience that people had, what are your needs for empathy and all that, and it became very individualistic. Like everybody was just off in their own world wanting their own needs addressed. And my sense is that it didn't have a shared purpose. It was very individualistic, so everybody's just going off into doing their own thing. And I'm looking at something that has that the purpose is more shared, so that we're all working kind of on a shared purpose in a sense. Like for example, at the hub, it's how might we raise the level of empathy at the hub? So everybody's working on that one vision, and it's a shared vision. Versus how do we create more empathy in your life? And I thought it was because I found that the like all this stuff, the ideas that we generated, it's like it wasn't all building on people weren't building on each other. Do you know what I mean? It's like the individualism was kind of diffusing the energy, and it didn't. So I'm imagining something towards a shared project, a shared vision, so that you get multiple points of view that actually kind of support each other in that. Then people can kind of play off of each other. So that, I don't know, maybe you could reflect that. That would help me to...
Yeah, so what I'm hearing from you is a frustration that you had in the last workshop, that once you ask people to connect it to their, I don't know if it's setting or needs,
Their own needs.
Then it became very individualistic kind of goal, and they kind of disengage with the idea of community, other people, and focus on their personal needs instead of looking at like something that would benefit the whole community. And it's something that you want to I don't know if prevent, it sounds like a really bad word, but kind of more looking at how they can engage in something that maybe I'm adding here, it's not what you said exactly, but bridge their own needs with looking at the community and not doing something that will be just for what they want.
Yeah, it was, it's a little bit of the, not a little bit, it's the notion of transactional empathy versus transformative empathy. In transactional empathy is that life is about me. We're all narcissists in this world, all trying to deal with our own needs in a sense. And we need enough empathy to empathize with each other so we can get our own individual needs met, right? So once I get my needs met, that's what's really important, is my needs being met. The transformational empathy is that we have a common shared need for kind of like an empathic, shared empathic space, and that we need to tend to that shared empathic space. And it's the relationship that's what is important, is how it is that we are relating. And I'm still trying to, get clear on how to express this. But and there's an article. I don't know if I ever sent you that article. It's about transformational versus transactional empathy.
No, send it to me. It sounds interesting because I've never heard about the transactional one. I'm really not familiar with that, so that's interesting.
I think it's really core. It's basically because that's, I think, even like NVC and some of these processes that they're highly transactional, so let me see. I'm going to just send you this real quick. Find it. Okay, here's a link to, this is where I first heard of the concept. So it's really about how do we create a transformation. In fact, that's why I'm calling the process that I'm doing transformational empathic co-design.
Okay.
So that we are working on the relational space and the quality of the relation, and it's a shared creation of that around. And I think there's an article too that I don't know if I can email. I have a. She sent me the copy of this. So there's. So she was talking about transactional and transformational empathy and mediation. And so mediators have this underlying philosophical framework that they come from. And what their framework is if they're coming from a transactional empathy, they're actually steering the conversation and the mediation in a certain direction, versus if mediators are coming from a transformational viewpoint, where empathy itself is what's in the empathic relationship itself is what's important. So
it's interesting because she's framing it also as problem solving versus transformative. That's interesting. Okay, did you interview her?
I tried to interview her, but she didn't seem to want to do an interview. I did just chat with her for like half an hour or something about it. I didn't interview her. It's kind of like an older article, but it was like, oh, this is really, for me it was very relevant, something.
Yeah, it sounds very, very interesting, and because everybody where I am are talking about how it's important that kids will learn to problem solve. So problem solving is a big, big thing, and here there is like a thing about how problem solving actually is not that good, and it's actually, so it would be interesting to read in my, context, because it might be really contradicting a lot of the things that I'm working on. So it would be very interesting and might explain some things why there are some things that I don't like in the practice of the people that I'm working with, because they were working on problem solving, and that might clarify some stuff. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I found this to be really like a key point. It's within mediation, but it totally goes into every aspect of empathy. Like even human-centered design itself it's coming from a very transactional space. Even though they use empathy, it comes from a very the intention is very transactional. And what I'm wanting to do is take it and actually use the tools for transformational purposes. So it's and it's not a hard and fast space between them, and it kind of overlap and all that. But yeah, it'd be, once you read it, maybe it would be something we could discuss. I think it'd be really. I've been trying to find ways of really articulating. Really, it's a bit harder concept.
Yeah. Well, I'll read it and then we can talk about it, because I'm very intrigued now about it. So you're gonna send me the article that she sent you?
Yeah, it's in fact, do it right this minute while we're.
Okay.
There's it's covered. A lot of it's covered in all the clips there, but so I sent that to you.
Okay, thanks. So it sounds to me. So if we're going back to so what I'm hearing is that the idea is that we're not here to solve private or personal problems. We're not a therapeutic place, but you're actually working toward having people better connect, better understand each other, and transform the community that we live in.
Yeah, it's transforming the community. It's almost like creating, it's like you create a value. It's like, what is important to us? Is it just me and my needs getting met? You know, you hear that all the time. Well, we got to have everybody's needs be met. It's all about them. Well, it's really about the relationship. What is the quality of the relationship? We want to create an empathic relationship, and then have that and maintain that and foster that and nurture that. And all those individual needs, they get addressed within that, but it's not, we're not like focusing on it, we're focusing on the empathic relationship. And all those individual needs, I think, kind of get addressed within that space, but it's done within a space of, it's the shared relationship of empathy that we want to nurture and foster and expand. It's not just you getting your own, you know, pre-existing needs met. That will happen, but it'll happen in a different, it happens with a different emotional quality, I think. But I'm also having trouble, you know, really expressing it and having examples and stuff like that.
No, I totally understand, because I've been working the last couple of months about universal design for learning, which the idea is some folks from Boston College and Harvard took the design thing and said, okay, let's do it for education so that every kid's need would be met. Now, their center is amazing. CAST, I don't know if you heard about it, and it's a big website, CAST, and tons of research, tons of stuff for teachers. But what happens is, when I'm talking to teachers, most of the teachers don't know what I'm talking about. They never heard about it. But the second thing is that they're like, how am I in the classroom with like 20, 30 kids? I'm gonna meet each one's like needs, and how am I gonna, you know, and they're thinking about the practice of what they need to do when under the pressure, and not thinking about cultivating the environment and making it like a safe place for, you know, whatever. You cannot really satisfy everybody, but if you do a supportive, you know, environment that allows people to feel that they can come and ask for help, or each one can help each other, and there is kind of a brotherhood, fraternity kind of like vibe or atmosphere in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting into the educational setting, I'm hearing you saying that instead of focusing on how am I individualizing for each one of the 30 kids their like curriculum, actually just making it like the environment and the way that I'm teaching approachable, listening to them, and then make it accessible for them to come and ask for help if it's not working for them.
Yeah, and it's not just about the teacher, it's every relationship is that way within the space, that we're all, and that we're fostering empathy itself is almost like the gateway. Yeah. So I used the metaphor that empathy is this gateway to all this other, but we have to build and maintain that gateway and make it as strong and of a, now I'm shifting metaphors, a container, you know, as possible. And the other transformative part that I heard this in the World Cafe. They were talking about World Cafe, where in it they were talking about within debate, you know, you have your point of view and the other person has their point of view, and it's like one will win. So there's an underlying sense of competition, right, in debate. And within World Cafe, they were saying, well, it's about dialogue. Like, I have my point of view and you have your point of view, and we're wanting to go, you know, so deep in terms of what is, you know, what is happening for us, our experience, that we kind of come to that common humanity. There's a point where we actually see that our points of view or what we're kind of wanting or needing actually have a common basis. And then it's like we actually shift from mine and yours to almost a shared that disconnect of interest experience transforms into, if that's the transformative part, that somehow transforms into a whole different shared experience. And the way they explained it, I could kind of imagine it, that, you know, they showed, I think, like a graph, you know, like that with negotiation, you're trying to negotiate with your side and their side, whereas if it's transformative, it's like you're actually going out of that into a whole different emotional space that's like a shared space, which seems to happen when we really dig deeper and deeper into what's really important for us. I don't know if you want to give that a shot of reflecting that.
So, I wrote some stuff because I wanted to get that because I thought it was very, very valuable. So you were saying that it's about the relationship. So you're talking not about the individual needs satisfied and kind of not mine and yours and doing the division of like I will meet your needs, you will meet my needs, but kind of looking at the shared, connected atmosphere that is making like a special space that then the interaction are more meaningful and more helpful to each other. And then you feel that your needs are being satisfied, but it's not just about, you know, we're going to satisfy your needs.
Yeah, it's maybe it's like that conflict that I talk about in my family, that story, like my sister-in-law and my mother are in argument with each other. And it's like, well, you're not putting the gifts. The gifts should not be over here. They should be over there, and it's all your fault for the kids getting into the gifts. So that's like, well, we could negotiate how we do the gifts, like how that happens. But in terms of what was really going on in their dialogue, they were going back and forth. And it turned out the whole real issue was whether I belong in this family or not. You know, that it was a whole different issue. That was really, it wasn't like where do we put the things. It was like, do I have a sense of belonging? And it's like, oh, you need a sense of belonging. I understand belonging. You know, I need a sense of belonging too, and I feel that you belong, and so maybe that, I guess, you know, I'm trying to look for examples, but that's what I'm kind of seeing. It was like a whole different issue that was really the issue, and then the connection actually happened at that sense of belonging, that you do belong. I do accept you, and it's like the whole thing about where the gifts was like totally disappeared because it was like a whole different underlying kind of issue.
It was not about the gifts.
Yeah, and where the gifts are stored and so forth. Yeah. So, but I'm really looking for that vocabulary, you know, of how to explain this in a good way. The transformative versus transactional to really, because I think it's really critical.
I think so. It sounds like it. So I'm gonna read that, and we're gonna talk about it because I'm really intrigued now to look at that because it might really be very influential for my frame and my way of doing my my research because I think that puts the finger exactly on what I see as problematic, and I couldn't identify it. And it was like, I was talking about we're doing research, but we're not being empathic to the person that we're doing research with. Remember that I talked about it? So it's like, in a way, but now I'm looking at the kids. So I can give you an example from the settings. We're trying to get every kid's needs, so you create this crazy curriculum, and the teacher is like getting crazy because they need to, this kids has a visual memory, this one has experiential memory, this one has like verbal memory, and they're like, oh, so I need to do like 5 different things to get all the kids to, instead of nurturing an environment that would allow each one to get what they need, but teach like one thing, but give like an opportunity for the kids to learn by themselves, to learn from other people, to to invest in that, and there would be a feeling. And if one of the kids wouldn't feel that they're learning and they don't understand, they could come to the teacher, and then the teacher would be able to give them the support that they need.
Mm-hmm. So let me just reflect here. So I'm hearing that we can get together and talk. You're going to look at this. We could talk about it. And you see that it's a critical or it's an important aspect that gives you some insight into actually things that you're dealing with now in the educational realm. And there's this movement like, well, the teacher should address all the needs of the students, and teachers are kind of like, hey, this is like too overwhelming to be dealing with this, you know, and that so that's kind of more the transactional empathy, whereas what maybe is needed is the transformational empathy, where they're working on the empathic relationships within their empathic relationships, and you didn't quite say it, but of the whole class, so that students feel like they can come up and ask for specific things that they're needing, and that's more, that it kind of like takes the pressure off of the teacher, like it's all about you addressing the needs of everybody, that it's and that's causing, sounds like, a lot of stress for them, just that whole framing.
Yeah, so I think it's good to give the example of like family, an example of like a work setting, let's say, and then get the people around this idea. And it sounds great that we would frame this workshop as a workshop that is focusing on let's say something around nurturing something community. I don't know what would be the words. An empathic community, but maybe we shouldn't use empathy all the time. But something about nurturing, fostering, you know, a something community, so that it will be clear that we're not talking about individual needs. If you need therapy, if you need to be heard, that's not the place for you. And we're doing some it's not community service. It would be something about social. I don't like civic engagement. I don't think that's the right word.
I'll just reflect. I'm hearing you're looking at what the title would be, something along nurturing, fostering, something community, and you're looking for the words. You know, it's kind of looking. It's social, and it's not. I think it was, what was it? You did not community
civic engagement. Yeah, I don't, because usually when you say civic engagement, you talk more about political things and kind of. And it doesn't need to be political. I mean, it's I can't find. I mean, is there other kind of words for you know, fraternity, brotherhood? It's very mainly kind of manly kind of thing, but like a word that will have this kind of thing.
Yeah, so you're looking at what is the word to, you're not wanting it to be too manly, kind of, but really to capture the transformative aspect of it, the empathic transformative.
Yeah, because I think when you talk about like brotherly kind of brotherhood, that would be something that doesn't have to be political, but it has. Like, I'll be there for you, and you'll be for me, and we'll be able to do something, you know, together. Oops. Drop my phone. So, I'm thinking.
Brotherhood, I'll be there for you, you for me, do it together. I know at the Hub they talk about transformative, so transformation. So it's like a term that comes up there.
But to what? the idea is if you offer the workshop, you need to explain, so the transformation is toward what? So you can use the word transformation, which would be instead of nurturing or fostering, but what are you transforming the person toward? What is this something community? So it's like a beloved community, like Martin Luther King was talking about, which I think it's very close to that, but it's very Christian, very religious. With it has religious connotation, but I think beloved community might be the closest to what we're talking about, because it comes from nonviolence and
well, it could be that we're creating a new vocabulary because it's not out there. You know, it's kind of like the Germans. You know how they have how they put together words. It's they just create these new words, and they're like a mile long. They put together all these concepts, and it turns into the empathic beloved community, something or other, and it's all one big word. It's just...
Yeah, that's why I have trouble with German. I mean, I cannot like grasp this language. My girlfriend speaks German. I know she can. But yeah, maybe, I mean, you know, I mean, the easiest would be it's transformation toward an empathic community, or we're fostering an empathic community, but, and just use, you know, empathy, but.
Because it's almost like that gate, you know, that's the metaphor I'm using now, is we're kind of building the shared, kind of that shared, I guess I don't know, it's well, the closest for me is the fostering transformational empathic community, but that's like too much.
But you don't want to foster a transformational community. You want people to transform toward an empathic community, right? The transformational is a phase toward something. It's not.
But it's a continuous, you know. It's like the space is empathic, and within that space, it's all the kind of the individualism kind of gets transformed into shared. It's like an ongoing transformation, maybe. That's that people are always kind of disconnecting. I mean, it seems to be part of life, and then the empathic space is where the reconnection happens. And so it's creating a space for continuous reconnection and transformation into finding our common, you know, that common humanity, or that common, those common needs, in a sense. It's somehow it's almost like it transforms individual needs into common needs. Does that make sense?
Again, I didn't understand.
We're transforming. It's a space for transforming individual needs into common needs. In the sense, it was like with my sister and mother, there was like these individual needs, and then they got transformed into a common need of belonging. And then once we had the sense of belonging, it's like all the other stuff kind of gets resolved. You know, it's
okay.
I'm just starting. It's just a starting point.
No, it's interesting thing, because you said I just wrote what you were saying, but so I think there is a third. I don't know how to write the third stage, because you're talking about the first stage, which is okay. Each one has their individual needs, and then there is a conflict or whatever, or there is a discussion, and then the second phase is the individual needs are transformed into a common need. So suddenly I understand that I'm not talking about where to put the gifts, but I'm talking about sense of belonging, and suddenly the the discussion shifts to a complete like different level and a more empathic and understanding. And then I'm looking for the third level. So after there is this level of different kind of talking about it, so what happens then?
There's an action that happens that then our actions, there's it's like the blocks to action are removed. It's like when we have a kind of a shared need, then our actions are kind of based on that shared need that we have, versus like my need against your need, and that we have to have like empathy to kind of come to a compromise to get as much of my need and as much of your need maybe addressed.
And
it's like the space. It's like if you in that article, she talks about that it comes from like basic premises about the nature of life. It comes from the premise, the transactional comes from there's an underlying premise that we're all disconnected beings, and we have to kind of compete for our own personal needs.
okay.
Versus transformational is that underlying we're really all connected. We all have this common humanity, and we have kind of like maybe an empathic. We value empathy as like the way that we kind of come to that, seeing what our common humanity is. And once we see we have to see our common humanity, and then we can take action from that common humanity.
Okay, that's interesting. Did you see what I did there with the three?
Space to transform individual needs to common needs. Individual needs are transformed to a common needs and shift. Common needs transform to common needs and shift the level of discussion to shared common need and humanity. Maybe empathic action from the shared common need, versus like my needs and your, versus kind of competition between our individual needs, where one wins, or we kind of come to a compromise situation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I mean we're getting close to like the purpose of the workshop. That's good. And I think that talking about this like 3 stages, that might be, thinking, that's why I was saying I think it's important to talk about the purpose. So once we have it really defined, we can use those 3 stages as the introductory activity in the beginning to get people to shift and to see a real example with the people that are coming to this workshop, that actually how it works. So if you said empathy circle, or maybe manipulate a little bit the empathy circle to work toward that, so that they'll see that actually something that they worry about is actually something that has a common need, and suddenly, oh, the other person in the other table has the same sense of belonging, or whatever that it is that we find, and that will set up the whole day of kind of, we're not doing something about individual needs, we're setting the space to do something that will be about humanity and like common or shared needs, the way that we'll call it. And from there you can go to the human-centered design, because then there is, okay, so we need to address really something that is like a shared need in our community, or a shared need, not just my personal need to like have more friends, go out more, or but actually something that the community doesn't have a shared space to have common activities and sense of belonging, for example. Instead of me thinking about we should have, you know, more films, or just making it up. But does it make sense?
Yeah, I'm hearing that we're looking at what is the intention, the overall intention, and that we're working towards that, getting that sense. And once we have that, we can start creating like an example, have some examples of what that we can share in the beginning of the workshop, and then it starts to frame the whole direction once we have that sense of clarity and work. So we're working at getting that clarity, and then it would be like, well, this is what we're doing. Here's some examples, and here we're using human-centered design to design towards that.
Yeah. So sounds good. I mean, it sounds like we have something that, you know, we can work with, and
yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I think this is a real important part to this transactional and transformational. So it's really good for me to.
I'll make sure to read it before next week work meeting that we're gonna have, so that you know I'll be able to talk about it, and
so we'll kind of pick up then next week just where we left off.
Yeah, I'll do some thinking to make sure that I'm, you know, like we're not just talking and sharing ideas, but we're going to talk more specifically, like, you know, ideas. So if you think about the empathic circles, what in the empathic circle would do this kind of, you know, activity or human-centered design? And oh, I wanted to ask you something about the human-centered design thing. I went to their website, and they have the educational
manual.
Yes, but it looked different than the one that you shared with me. I think it was like more than a year ago. It's like yellow, and the design there is completely different than what you shared. Do you remember the one that you shared with me? Because it says also second edition, so I thought, oh, maybe they changed some stuff. And it's less. It looks less comprehensive for me anyway. I'm sure teacher won't understand a word that they're saying there. So I was wondering if you have, because I was trying. I know I downloaded it because you shared it with me, and I downloaded it, but I can't find it for a reason. I don't know why.
I've got this is a page here for the manuals I've got.
That's pages from the.
And then if you scroll down, there's the Manual Educator's Toolkit. It says version 2.
Oh, so it might be the same thing. Where is it?
If you scroll down, it says the manuals.
Oh yeah, no, it's the same. Yeah, no, that looks the same. Because they look at education a little bit differently. So they don't start with empathy, which was interesting for me. It was like discovery, or kind of they tweaked it a little bit.
There's another one. There's the Manual Educator's Toolkit. Version 2 has 4 parts: Design Thinking for Educators, Design Workbook Download, Designer's Workbook Blank, Quick Start Guide, and then there's the Manual and Educator's Guide to Design Thinking.
Where are you?
I just had put that link in. It's
no, I am in the link, but where in the page?
Oh, there's a line. It says D-School Web Curriculum Manual Intro to Design Thinking Manual Bootcamp Artifact. Then it says Manual. It's kind of more centered.
Okay. I see
And
that.
then right after that is another one, the manual. So those are two, I think, educators. And then it has a picture there of their model.
Yes. See that. Okay.
They all use that same model, but they're the first step. They tend to call it different things.
Hmm.
Some call it discovery, D School and IDEO call it empathy. Others call it, I don't know. I've got a whole chart of different things that people call it. I mean, that different organizations call it. But they all, if you look into it, they all say that the first part is about empathy. They just don't call it empathy.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna think as well, like what we can do with it, how we can use it, and what what would be helpful to
Yeah, okay, so we got a week just to think about it and kind of digest, and
yeah.
then we'll meet and pick up again. We can go into the getting a bit more clarity around the transformational, kind of really looking at that. I think that's the key, is kind of
Yeah.
this shared vision and people working on a shared project. It's like, do we have a shared community, empathic community, or are we working on a shared wanting to create empathy at the hub, a shared vision? I think it's something around that shared quality.
Yeah, and once we have this clarity, it will be so much easier to think about, the activity and how to frame the whole day and what would be the best. It'll be
Yeah.
very, very easy to do that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think so too. That yeah, it's really helpful too to tie stuff. It's something I've been thinking about, but it's really good to be able to talk about it and hear it back
Yeah,
and
it's
get your point of view on it. And like that story about the educators, the struggles they're having, how they're trying to bring that in, and how it affects what you're doing too. That's really helpful.
yeah, it's great. I value talking with you. I don't have somebody that understand empathy in that sense. I mean, all my advisors have like different kind of output, but they don't get the core concept, and we're arguing about that. And it's really helpful to get your feedback because you put me always back on track when they kind of like trying to get it to the academic thing that they did.
Uh-huh.
And so you're like my compass to like make sure that I'm
Keep you on the empathy
yeah,
track instead
yeah.
of getting off into the detached.
Yeah.
What is it? What the value system of the academia, which is actually kind of different from design.
Oh,
There's a different value set.
it's completely. It's like it's just yeah. But I'm fighting it back. I'm trying to like see how I can fight back and what I can do to actually change that. And it's going to be interesting. I'm starting to look for jobs now, and it's going to be interesting where I'm going to land. Eventually to kind of what kind of like place would accept me with my weird ideas. So.
Well, we can start a conference. I want to hear too more about your experience. You've been doing all these conferences, so
Sure.
maybe. Do you ever think of that as like producing?
Yeah,
those,
sure.
Or,
I mean, I'm very good in that. It's very easy for me, and I'm sure that I want to work in a university, but it doesn't mean that I won't do all those conferences. And it's part of the service that you're supposed to do in a university, is to do those kind of conferences and get people to the university and around. So, for sure, I'm finishing this year with like my dissertation, and then I'm gonna work very hard on conferences and publication, everything connected with empathy, because that's what I want to do. So.
Right. Well, okay. I better get going. I got to take Joan
Okay.
A little bit more time, but
So we scheduled what? Let's just look for next week. So next week the same time, unless you schedule with somebody else and you see that there is any possibility of doing it earlier.
like an hour earlier, is that?
Whatever works for you. I don't want to get you to. So I'll write now the same time as today, and if you can do it earlier, that will be great.
Can we also line up a couple of meetings, like say, be several meetings?
Yeah.
Just the next 3 weeks or something, or
that works for me. Let's see this. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah, and it's all geared towards creating this workshop conference.
Yeah. And again, I mean,
the first step, to doing more around this.
Yeah. Yeah. So just let me know if you can do it earlier, but if not, that's fine.